Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and this is the Storyteller Forecast for Libra for September 2016. Check out what's new on my blog on my website, anniehelpsyou.com. Also, if you're interested in hanging out with me and undergoing massive transformation together, you can see more about my new destination retreats. So in September, we have a lot going on. I'm calling this month the Triad of Transformation. We have eclipses, we have Mercury in retrograde, we have the final square between Saturn and Neptune, and I'm going to go into more details about that later. First, I want to talk about how the eclipses are going to be bringing themes specific to your sign. I'll give the details about the eclipses, the degree, and the dates and all of that after, but I want to talk about some general themes specific to Libra that the eclipses are bringing. And before all of that, I want to talk about birthdays. So early degree Libra placements, or if you're watching for your rising sign, so you're either having your birthday if you're an early degree Libra placement, or if you're watching for your rising sign and you have between 0 and 9 or 10 degrees, you're going to have the sun move over your ascendant. And both of these bring a new rebirth. They bring a chance for a clean slate, for changing your whole perspective, your viewpoint, and thereby changing your life. In the weeks before that happens, you have a crowding of energy in your 12th house. The crowding of energy in your 12th house brings up all of your fears. It brings up all of your issues in order to get more clarity about what you want. In order to get very clear, one of the first rules of manifestation is to get clear about what you want. If you don't really know what you want, you can't create it. So right before your birthday, you have this massive amount of energy in the house of your unconscious mind. And it brings up fears. It brings up things that are unresolved. Some people feel a little funky because before their birthdays, and they think it's because they're turning a year older. And maybe that's part of it, but what most of it is, I think, is this crowding of energy that makes you think about things, that makes you analyze things, that makes you question things, and brings up emotions that have not been dealt with. So by the time you move to your, to the date of your birth, or where the sun crosses over your ascendant, that energy starts to clear and you start to move forward and move out of it. But it's important to know that if you're feeling funky, it is purposeful. The more you can have brought up about what you don't want, the more you can, first of all, resolve issues that come up. Second of all, you can get clear on what you want and use your birthday wishes for manifesting. Birthday wishes are real. Birthday wishes are astrologically based, and the sun represents what you want. So when the sun in the sky gets back to the same point in your chart that it was when you were born, a portal is open for your desires, your wishes, your birthday wishes. So definitely check out my video called Making Wishes Come True. You can search for Making Wishes Come True and Annie Botticelli on YouTube. And I go into great detail about using the power of the birthday wish, how you should use a wish over an intention and why, and more details about using that major power period, as well as some other power periods. So we covered birthdays. Okay, I hope you have a wonderful birthday. I love birthdays. Now, regarding the eclipse cycle, the eclipses are occurring in the signs that rule your 12th house and your 6th house. But most of you are not going to feel the energy just there. Most of you will have concurrent themes with 11th and 5th house, because the actual eclipses for most of you will occur in the 11th and 5th houses. So let's talk about each of the themes that will likely come up. The energy of lunar eclipse in the 5th house and solar eclipse in the 11th house means that energy is closing in the 5th house and opening in the 11th house. So how you can what the eclipses are asking of you is to close out some part of yourself in favor of your community, closing out or utilizing your individual passion for the greater good of all. Taking something that's individual and using it to benefit a team or expand a team or stretch your individual talent further by working with a group. That's one of the, it's basically like being a part of something greater, like taking your individual aspects and making them part of something greater. Now, for many of you, that will result in working with community or group-based things. For some of you, that just can involve taking your interests and making them bigger, like taking them to the internet, taking them somewhere. The internet rules the same place that teams and groups do, which is all the 11th house. So it's like taking your interests, your hobbies, your gifts, and bringing them out to a bigger audience. That's one of the big themes that has been ongoing, very strong, especially since the beginning of 2015, and this theme goes well into 2017. There's another theme that's going on, and that has to do with the opening up of energy in the 12th house and the closing up of energy in the 6th house. The 6th house has to do with detailed form. The 12th house has to do with formlessness, the lack of form. So many of you might start to close up, like take things off your list and go more into a quiet space. Take the some more of your mundane focus and put it more into a spiritual focus, something like that. Taking the not focusing on emotion and focusing on the emotional space. So in the form of, doing inner work, psychotherapy, hypnosis, past life regression, meditation, anything having to do with communing with the divine as a greater or superseding focus. So these are all themes that could be coming up specifically for Libra. I'm calling the month of September, the general theme of the month of September for all signs, the triad of transformation. There are 3 events occurring this month: the eclipses, Mercury retrograde, and the final Saturn Neptune square, that each on their own have their own story and potentials for change. But when converging together, they bring just massive opportunities for alchemy. So I'm going to break these down into their sections. Eclipses are powerful astronomical and astrological events that occur twice a year. We call them the spring eclipses and the fall eclipses. Of course, if you're down under, that would be opposite. So this fall eclipse for you is your spring eclipse set. But in any case, the eclipses change trajectories. From the astrological standpoint, they change trajectories. So if you're hoping for or supposed to be doing something over here, but you're on this track, it jostles you sufficiently to move your trajectory. And so the amount of force that is necessary to take your path and change it is equal to the amount of force that the eclipses will come with. Sometimes there just needs to be a little adjustment. Sometimes there needs to be a major adjustment in the form of something very life-changing to get people on track. Sometimes the news comes with eclipses that is unwelcome. Sometimes it comes just as the best thing that you could ever hear, and sometimes these things happen both at the same time. Eclipses run in cycles, and the cycle that we're working on now is the Pisces-Virgo eclipse, the Pisces-Virgo polarity. This polarity started in the spring of 2015, or you could say the fall of 2015 for people down under. And the way that this works is the eclipse polarities run over a period of time. These run into spring of 2017. And there's a 4 to 6 month integration rate. So we'll say until almost the end of October of 2017 is when this full storyline is rolling out. So the eclipses work on a certain sector of your life. They work on the general sector for the signs, the Virgo Pisces, and then we talked about for your sign specific what the themes were for the houses. Now, the whole time that these eclipses are occurring, it's taking pieces, working on a project, and moving you along a continuum. So, on September 1st, we have the solar eclipse 9 degrees of Virgo. This eclipse is actually also squaring Saturn, which adds a little bit of a challenging edge to it. Then we have the lunar eclipse on September 16th at 24 degrees of Pisces, and that is conjunct Chiron, which is adding another intense element to it. Solar eclipses tend to bring in new energy. They're new portals of energy that are open. And with the energy of Virgo, this is coming in as new chances to work more efficiently, new chances to have more work if you needed work, or less work if you were working too much, or improvements in your work-life situation. They can also bring major radical changes to your health, to your diet, to your lifestyle. They can bring changes involving pets and animals and your relationship with pets and animals. So something new opening in those sectors. The lunar eclipse on September 16th at 24 degrees of Pisces is eclipsing something out. It's ending something, it's completing something, it's bringing something to fruition. The fact that it's conjunct Chiron is bringing this opportunity to end the victim mentality. And this is a huge one. This is part of the human condition that people who are consciously evolving are choosing to step out of. The victim mentality is the belief that life is happening to you, that there's nothing that you can do to make your life better, the quality of your experience better, and that people are doing things to you. And then that fits in with the guilt, blame, shame cycle, and that is the cycle of disempowerment. That's the cycle of the victim. Chiron, the asteroid that is conjunct this lunar eclipse, is all about the woundedness. It's called the wounded healer. So any places you're most wounded, and whether you believe in past lives and it comes from there, or whether it's from this lifetime only, it doesn't matter where it comes from. It matters that you have a deep woundedness, and maybe it's the collective consciousness woundedness that you're picking up. Maybe it's your own soul's woundedness, whatever it is. This lunar eclipse is giving a chance to eradicate woundedness, which is very exciting because we are completely limited by our belief that life is happening to us. By using astrology and other tools as opportunities for conscious evolution, improving the quality of your life, we can't control what's going to happen. There are things that are going to happen that are beyond our say, and things have their cycles, and that's the way things are in this plane. But at the same time, we have 100% control over how we see things, how we change our quality of experience. And you do this by ending the victim mentality, by looking inside of yourself for the answers instead of blaming someone or circumstances. So many of the things that will have an opportunity to end with the lunar eclipses have to do with addictions, fears. The 12th house, which rules Pisces, where this eclipse is in sign, has to do with your deepest fears, your deepest habits, your deepest negative conditioning. So ending something in that sector. There's also a theme from things being hit, from moving hidden things into the seen realms. Movement of Pisces over to Virgo is taking something from the unseen realm and putting it into the seen realm, from the thought or feeling section and putting it into manifestation, into form. There's also a theme from formlessness, abstract thoughts and ideas, to form. So it's a major, major manifestation portal to take things from here and bring them out here. So while all of this is going on, you may notice that if you follow storylines that have happened since the beginning of 2015, you're in process. And this is not the end of the cycle. We're still in process. So while it might seem like there's a definitive end to certain things, certain other things will take well into 2017 to really, really move to their integration. But we're at another important point here of that continuum. At the same time as the eclipses are occurring, we have Mercury retrograde. We hear about Mercury retrograde 3 to 4 times a year, and it can get, boring. We don't want to hear about Mercury retrograde anymore, maybe. But the fact that it's happening during the eclipse season is very, very strongly bringing up this story of the earthworm. I always think of the earthworm when I think about Mercury retrograde, because the earthworm just goes over old ground, and that's the theme totem animal in Ted Andrews' animal deck. I love Ted Andrews' work. And he talks about the earthworm working old ground, and that's what I think of when I think of retrogrades. So when Mercury retrograde comes up, which that went retrograde August 30th through September 21st or 22nd, depending on your time zone. And then the shadow periods stretched out, started about August 10th, and then stretch at the tail end until about October 7th. But once it's direct, every day that Mercury gets stronger, you'll feel it, and it's not until October 7th that it regains full strength, but it doesn't mean you can't take some action before then, because that's going to become an open window for taking action. This eclipse time of September is not the time to take action unless it is forced by the eclipses. If there's any way you can put off making your decisions, making your plans into the last week of September, at least if possible, then it's going to be a little bit easier for you. Because of the Mercury retrograde cycle, it lends itself to short-term arrangements. So let's say some news comes in from the eclipses and you have to do something different. You have to make an arrangement. Try to make those arrangements temporary. Something like a 6-month lease on a house, a 6-month contract, something month to month, or something that has some flexibility in what you're agreeing to, because the Mercury aspect of it tells us that some aspects of what's coming in may have a shorter shelf life and may still be in process. So you can see more about Mercury retrograde, the do's, the don'ts, and such by looking for my Mercury retrograde video. If you search for Annie Botticelli and put in Mercury retrograde, then you can find that there. So the third aspect of this triad of transformation is the final square between Saturn and Neptune. Saturn is the bringer of form, and Neptune is the ruler of Pisces, which is this unseen, hidden realm. So there's a big theme, and you're hearing it come in through the eclipses, you're hearing it come in through the Saturn Neptune, of form versus formlessness, of, the things that you can see and the things that you can't see. And for many people who are doing spiritual work, you can't see a lot of those things. They're not as tangible. But to those of us that dwell in those realms, they're just as real as the things that you can see in front of you. I always think of the idea of cell phones. Nobody ever questions, looking at a cell phone and you're calling someone across the world. You can't see how that's going on. You can't see the cell phone beaming up to the satellite, and whatever else that goes on there. You can't see it, but you trust that it's happening because you see that it's happening. And there are many, 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 many things that we can't see that are real, that are totally real. And the journey of humanity into these lesser seen realms is part of this clash between Saturn and Neptune. It's telling the story of the battle of the seen and the unseen, the formlessness. So we started this square cycle November 2015. We had the second run in June of 2016, and now this is the final theme. So again, there could be a theme running here of creating a bridge. In my mind, neither one is right. The form and the formlessness, neither is right. They both are real and they both are valid. And so it's up to us to transcend. And we can transcend by building a bridge between the worlds, a bridge between the answers, leaving room for all of it to be right, and finding the ways where we can use all of it for our full multidimensional highest expression in this lifetime. So those are the three things that are going on. There's something else, and of course there are lesser aspects. You can always get more information about the lesser aspects that are going on that I don't mention in the horoscopes when you sign up for my free email newsletter. If you go to anniehelpsyou.com, on my front page you can sign up for my free email newsletter, and I write dates to notes and general themes, and I send that out a month before the month that it's talking about, so that you can see what good days, for things for your planning purposes. Something else very noteworthy this month that I'm going to go into way more detail in October is Jupiter changing signs. It's moving into Libra, and so it's been expanding and bringing growth and opportunities in Jupiter for a year, and now it's going to bring mischief and miracles into the house or the sign of relationships. So I'm going to talk about how that will affect your sign specifically and more details about Jupiter next month, because we already had so much to focus on in September. So I hope that you have a wonderful month. If you're interested in learning astrology with me, there might be a few slots left in my astrology apprenticeship program. You can see that on my website, anniehelpsyou.com. I always have new blogs there all the time. I also have my Creating Successful Online Business course if you want to take your light work into the international realms and not be geographically tied. And I have my new Soul Connections destination retreats that are starting. So you can check out more information about my first retreat for this fall. And I hope that you have a wonderful month. I'll see you next month. Bye.